이번 맘앤아이 인터뷰에서는 마지아노 디지롤로모 앤 리치 로펌의 시니어 파트너인 마이클 마지아노를 모셨습니다. 마지아노 변호사의 인생과 커리어를 들어보고 정직이라는 의미를 찾아보도록 하겠습니다.
So I would like to ask you a little bit about your background, your family, where you came from. How did your heritage affect who you are today?
So my family, my mom came from Italy. My father came from Hoboken, New Jersey, which back then was the closest thing to Italy. And they met living next door to each other in Hoboken. Mom came along to the United States on her own as a student. She wanted to get away from the fascism of Mussolini. And so she came here in the 30s. So she worked as a dress designer, dressmaker, became a naturalized citizen in 3 years, worked very hard, bought her own house, two-family house as a single woman, met my father while he was in the military in World War II, and they quickly had 3 children. My oldest brother, who became a teacher, I became a lawyer, and my younger brother became a physician. And later in life, my father became a physician. The one beauty of being here, and I think what my father and mom really enjoyed, was that there was a growing diversity. One of the very interesting things now is the Asian culture has just grown so much so that it is really part of Fort Lee, part of Bergen County, and I could not ever imagine really going back to the 60s and 70s. It is fabulous today, just fabulous. I love it, my wife loves it, my children love it, and it is just, I think, an example that the rest of the country should look to for a culture that mixes so well. And it's where I wanted to raise my children, I did raise my children, and where we're raising our grandchildren. And I think they'll be all the better for it.
I see, wonderful. And what made you choose to become a lawyer?
I was always interested in how our government works as a democracy. And the most important part of our democracy is the ability to bring a problem to the courthouse and have it adjudicated before a judge, but more importantly, adjudicated before citizens of the community. We call it trial by jury. And I found that the most amazing way to advocate to your peers, not to the government, not to somebody appointed by the government, but to people like me and you. People who could not get access to the courthouse, people who could not get access to a lawyer and a law firm, to level the playing field against corporate giants, against the government. They have a voice. Without lawyers like me, they have no voice.
So what does the concept of justice mean to you? You mentioned professionally what it does, but also in your personal and family life as well.
My kids grew up with a dad who was a trial lawyer, and they had to get used to the fact that when I became a trial lawyer, it was more than just a job. It was more than just a career. It was who I am. And one of the things I would try to impart in between talking about baseball and football and track and everything else that they did was to be fair and always stand tall and be honest and accept your personal responsibility as a human being in a community of other human beings. Work for what you want and do it honorably. And if you could help somebody along the way, that's fair, that's just. And be thankful that the best thing you could do in life is help someone else.
How did your family, wife and other members as well, contribute to your personal, professional development? What do you feel you were able to achieve with their support that you otherwise might not be able to?
So Mom was happy for me to do whatever I wanted to do in life. Although for some reason she thought I'd become a priest. that didn't work.
European mothers.
Right? You know, that didn't work. She wanted a professor, she got one. She got a doctor, she wanted a priest. I was happy to be a lawyer. I said, look, I'm advocating for people. Isn't that close enough? So, you know, religion was strong in our family, is strong in our family. My dad, as I told you, was a physician, and so there was a role model there. And then my mom came from Italy with nothing and became an independent woman on her own and a property owner on her own. And she set an example for us that wherever you came from and whatever you came here with, this is an amazing country that will enable you to do and go as far as you wish.
How did you come to be an advocate for victims and people that feel they need to be defended?
I couldn't be a doctor because I didn't want to be a doctor, but I sure know a lot about medicine thanks to my father all these years. So I began to study anatomy and physiology. I began to study about traumatic brain injury. I began to study about spinal cord injury. I began to study about burn injuries and what people go through. And I could not imagine what they went through or what they had to look forward to living like that. Where the doctors left off, that's where we pick up. They get as good as they're going to get, and you now have to make sure through a jury verdict that they will be sustained, protected, and receive all that they need to get through the rest of their life with where they are in life.
So given the recent events in the news and the ongoing investigations, what would you suggest we can do to protect our communities and their diversity?
So there's two issues. One is gun violence, yes, and weapons of war in the hands of people who basically can get anything they like at a gun show. It's just crazy. It's wrong. I'm in favor of possessing a gun. I believe that we have a right to bear arms. I don't believe that everybody should have a gun because there are people who unfortunately, for various reasons, are emotionally unstable. So I believe there should be screening. I don't believe that there's any reason for a member of a household or an individual to have automatic weapons that are more powerful than what the police have. That is insanity, and that's wrong. Number two, the other issue, Asian hate. It is absolutely wrong, and it has to stop. We are a community of Americans, Asian, South American, Mexican, black, brown. We are the United States of America. We have built ourselves on being a government that welcomes people from all over the world. Asian Americans are Americans. Asian Americans are on the front lines at our hospitals and our nursing homes, putting themselves in harm's way every day. Yet, that same Asian American who puts their life in harm's way every day has to walk down Main Street in fear that somebody may assault them. It's just wrong. It's just so wrong. And we have to stop the hate now.
How do we do that? What are the steps we can take?
We all have to ask, how did we get here? You know, how did we get here? How did we get here? You know? Well, think of it. How did your family get here? How did my family get here? Certainly wasn't easy. You know, wasn't easy at all. Not one of them came over with more than a sack and a change of clothes. I'm not kidding. And who are we to say, this is not your country, go back to where you came from? How outrageous is that? This is their home. And they earned the right to be here, they should be here. And who are we to do anything but welcome them in friendship and in peace?
On the matter of legislation, how do we affect the legislation? And more than legislation, it's enforcement, because there are a ton of laws.
Elect good people. Government and the law is no better than the people who enforce it and who write it. And if you believe that what we're sharing here today resonates in who we are as a people, elect those officials who believe in equality for every human being. Elect those officials who will enforce voting rights. Elect officials who will stop the gun insanity. We probably now have, as a people, probably 40% of the guns in the world here in the United States. It's millions and millions of, and every time there is a devastating event, we've had 2 in a week, gun sales go up. If that guy is going to have that weapon, I need to protect my family. But then we're all going to be buying guns and buying weapons, and it's okay to have a gun. But it's become a fever, hasn't it? A fever across our country. And you treat that through legislation. Elect the right people to government.
And given how much you work with victims, when you see such horrific events happening, what would you suggest that victims can do to reach out to community and advocate for themselves as well?
Don't be afraid. Raise your head up. Don't put your head down and think, well, I just have to take this. Don't encourage bullyism by being a victim. Become an advocate. We owe a responsibility to ourselves, to our families, and to our community to do what's right. And when you see wrong, speak up, loud and clear. I would like to thank Mom&I for 2 reasons. One, for the ability to bring together so many people's stories to our community. Not only the Asian community, but throughout our community. Mom&I is a method of communication in print and in video of our life experience, of our common life experience. And what Sylvia is doing through her wonderful ability to communicate in print and visually is to get out so many wonderful stories about so many interesting people who are living right next door to us in the community that we would not have known but for Mom&I. I hope it thrives. I hope this new venture into the visual and video will expand, because it is so needed to unite a community and for it to get to know itself better.